Good morning. Welcome to the Pitch Track Chronicles. I am Uncle Tats. I am here with Rob, and the bottom feeders have officially reached 500, and it's not going to get any better. The fact that our pitching staff is so broken that we have to continue to use Severino just shows how flawed Cashman has become as a GM. And there was the argument where we used to argue with LI all the time that he's not a bottom five GM. I think we could almost I would put him in that category at this point. You know, the way that the last few off seasons have gone, the trades, right? Injuries, you can't predict them. You can't plan for them. Nobody plans for an injury. But the fact that we sat idle and did nothing, and now we're in this state, just shows that it's passed him by. I don't see him getting us out of this mess at all.
I don't see any reason to be optimistic that he can. He hasn't shown us any reason to be excited about the future. Every day you watch this team, you think, how can they make it worse than it already is? Like, what can they do today to make it worse? And whether it's Aaron Boone not knowing how bad we are on the base paths, or the fact that they continuously throw Severino out there despite the fact that he has an ERA over 10 over his last 7 games, or the fact that for 2 months now they've been trying to sell us that there's still a lot of season left. And he said it again yesterday. Aaron Boone said there's a quarter of the season to go. We got to get better. You've gotten worse. Every time you say it, you get worse. It hasn't gotten better. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch a single pitch of that game yesterday. I just followed on the game day. I was like, I'm not going to watch it because I know what's going to happen. And then right as Severino threw a pitch, I'm like, it's not going to be good. First batter gets on. And then he got the next 2 outs. I'm like, okay, maybe he can get out of this inning, and then walk home run. He's there it is. There it fucking is. There's the game. And the Yankees didn't score. They hit into 6 double plays, and they had 1 hit. That's the offense. They're going to put so much pressure on Aaron. They put so much pressure on Aaron Judge to come back and get this team back to where it was in May when they had 1 good month. And that's impossible because teams don't want to pitch to him. He's the one guy they're afraid of. They don't want to pitch to him. Even at 75%, they're not going to pitch to Aaron Judge. They are saying, take first base. We're going to give you first. We don't want to deal with you because we know the guy behind you is probably going to hit into a double play. And that should be embarrassing for this team. And yet they keep coming out and saying, we can still fix this. We got a lot of season left. Just wave the white flag. We've been saying this for a month now. Just get on with it. You should have moved pieces. We know that. We can't keep harping on the fact that they didn't do anything on the deadline, even though we want to. At this point, it's over with. It's been 2 weeks. Just move on. Get some of the younger players up here. Try to re-energize this team, and maybe there is some sort of magical run, but it's not happening with these guys. You have to do it. You have to try something else. They haven't even done that at all this year. That's what bugs me the most. They haven't tried anything. They have not tried anything different. It's been, let's get Bowers up here and play him every day. Let's get McKinney up here and play him every day. Let's get Rortvedt up here. Okay, he's a young catcher, but he's not doing anything. Or we're just going to play Higgy every day, despite the fact that we know he's not good. There's 2 players in this lineup I want to watch, and that's Judge and Volpe. There's 9 guys in the lineup. Give us something else to look forward to, and maybe you'll have that little bit of energy, and the fan base will be like, okay, I want to go watch Pereira's debut. I want to go see Peraza every day and Austin Wells. And we mention these names day after day after day. And the fact that we still have the same roster bugs me. So hopefully, I think we're off tomorrow, and then Friday starts a series against Boston. That's the 18th. So maybe that's when they do it. That's the day we've all been hearing. But it's too late. It's too late. This is the latest that we have been 500 or worse in a season since September of 1995. Tats, I was 3 years old. What were you, like 50? We're talking about almost 30 years of not being this bad. This is the worst Yankee team we have seen in almost 3 decades. So when Yankee fans are complaining like this, everyone's like, you guys are spoiled. It's because we don't know anything else besides winning.
No, it's true. Right? Yeah, I was around 15 at the time. Right? 95? We were at 5. We were this 500. Yeah, I was a fucking sophomore in high school. it's that's a long time ago. But no, I want to give a quick before I put my 2 cents in. Let's get a little roll call going on. Jonathan, how is everything going? Good morning. NFE, good to see you. Dev, what's going on? Medina in the house, what's going on? Garcia, how's everything going? And we got Mr. Barros in the chat. What's going on, Mr. Barros? D-Rod, oh man, thank you again. I know I sent my thank you in the other chat, but now you can hear it through my voice. Thank you for the other day for helping out. Here's the problem, and the main problem is what you said. They have made 0 adjustments to this dumpster fire. They don't want to. They're so stuck in their ways. I don't think they have the competency to make adjustments. John Sterling said on the broadcast as I was listening at work last night, Judge gets to walk. Okay, we get a base runner. Woohoo! Right? They were far, we don't get enough of them. And he's like, after the double play, he's like, he just started he was almost laughing hysterically. He's like, well, that's how they designed that up. Just put him on base and let the batter, the next batter hit into the double play. That was the theme of the game yesterday. Put Judge on base and wait for the double play to get out of the inning. And that's exactly what happened. Now, on Monday, we had the Pinstripes After Dark. It was a great show. We all had a good time. If you weren't there, shame on you. But Rob, I'll tell you what my lineup was going to, what I would have my lineup to be in September. You tell me what you think. I have leading off Volpe at short, Torres playing second, Bader center field, Judge cleanup at DH. I do not let him play the field anymore. Just let him bat. I don't want any more. I don't want to risk any setbacks with that toe. And we're going to get into the statements from Boone about the surgery in a second. I have Peraza batting fifth, playing third base. Cabrera in right. LeMahieu at first. Wells is my catcher. I call him up. And Pereira in left field. Because that's who I want my everyday left fielder to be next year. So that would be my lineup for the rest of the year to just see what we got. Don't wait, like I said, and I think a lot of people will agree. You cannot wait until spring training next year to see what you have. I think that's where everything started to really tank for the Yankees, is they're making the minimal moves in the offseason because they're anticipating outbursts from these prospects. Make September an early spring training, see how they're doing. This way, in the offseason, you know what you're going to need. You know where you're at. Is that such a that's got to be the way. That has to be the way to go.
Yeah. I wouldn't lead off Volpe. Not yet. That's one thing I wouldn't do because he's much better in the bottom of the order. And they tried that already, and he got worse. But other than that, I don't see any issues. Maybe not. I would love Florial to get healthy and get him up here over Cabrera. I think Cabrera serves better as a bench piece to play the infield, but that's got to be the lineup you see. I mean, at the very least, you're getting the kids up here. Did you mention Peraza there?
Yeah, Peraza's my third baseman.
Okay, yeah, and right there, the only thing I would change is not have Volpe at the top of the order. I would put anybody else, really. I'd lead off Peraza. I'd lead off Florial. I'd even lead off Judge. I just don't want Volpe there. Not yet. Other than, but I think that's fine. I'd try Florial in left or right field and put Pereira in left. Actually, okay. I put Florial in center.
Well, originally I had Judge and Torres switched, where I had Volpe. I wanted to see how his bats would develop hitting in front of Judge. I think he'll see better pitches for that. And just have Torres as my cleanup. But I want Judge to still have an impactful spot in the lineup but maybe get one less at bat a game. Not because we don't want to. And the only reason I don't have Judge completely, I know I had said just shut him down. I don't think that's fair to the fans, and especially if he's able to get on the field, you have to utilize him. You need something to go to the stadium for. You know the ticket prices are going to drop, and you're going to see, families that normally would not be able to afford to go to a game have the means to do it with prices dropping with this horrendous season. You want to give a chance for the kids to see their favorite player. Right? Judge is bringing in a whole new generation of Yankee fans with little kids. Let them see him. Give them the chance to see him play. So that's why I'm not shutting Judge down. But I do want to at least get one less at bat. That's why I have him in the 4th spot. What's going on, MH? Let's get to the statement made by Boone on Judge while we're talking about him, right? And how surgery is off the table. Isn't it so Yankee-like for them to just sit and wait, and then you know exactly what's going to happen in spring training? He's going to get, there's going to be a setback, and then in the beginning of the season, they're going to have him getting surgery. Can't you see that?
I would like to think not. When you go back and listen to the Judge interview, Aaron Boone was kind of right. He didn't really say I need it, but he wasn't sure. But then again, we never know. I think if it comes out in the offseason that Judge is going to get surgery the day after the season ends, then I wouldn't be shocked at all. Even if he doesn't necessarily need it, if he gets some procedure just to make sure it's good, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I just want him ready by the spring. Whatever it takes to get ready for spring training, then if he has to get a surgery or a procedure done, or if they have to put the goddamn toe on ice for 6 months, do it. Or if he needs to have a completely new toe, find some other 6'7" person that doesn't need his right toe and give it to Aaron Judge. I don't know what you got to do. Just make sure he's 100%, because we're seeing clearly, even at 75%, 80%, he's by far the best player on this team because teams are afraid of him. But we need him 100%. We do.
Yeah, and I don't think he's getting into that home run or nothing. We'll look into that comment in a minute. No, it's so hard because, like I said, you're gonna have families being able to take their kids to the game for the first time in a while with these tanking prices. You don't want to, if you take Judge completely out of the equation for the rest of the year and just let him just rest up for next, it's going to drop. It's going to spoil the idea of going to a game. I don't want to say that the tickets prices, ticket sales are going to drop, because that'll never happen. Right? Like we said. It's like Madison Square Garden. It doesn't matter how the team is playing. It's an event to go, right? It's like a social gathering, especially more so, I believe, at Yankee Stadium. When I go with all my friends, we get there an hour and a half, 2 hours early. We hang out. We'll go to stands. You got Billy's over there. You got everywhere. River Avenue. It's like Mardi Gras. Going to a game. It's just a big party. And after the game, everybody's hanging out. It's a whole day event, and it's a chance for everybody. It's a big party, and everybody wants to go to the party. So the ticket sales will never drop. You might have people that just go and hang out at Billy's or stands, not go to the game, and just wait for their friends outside. I've thought about doing that. But they're always going to be there. The fans are not going anywhere, right? And as much as we criticize them, or you'll see people criticize, saying, just stop going, that's not going to solve anything. The Yankee organization is worth $7.1 billion. You think they're worried about your $50 ticket? Hector broke it down. If everybody spent at a game $60, right? Which we know is a very low mark. With the amount of tickets for every game, right? Because you got 40,000 people. That's over $300 million just in concessions per game. That's insane. That's insane to think of. They're not going to take away. Or is that over the season? Maybe you're not going to. They're not going to take their biggest commodity and just put them on the bench.
Yeah, if that was per game, then the Yankees should have a payroll of about 600 million.
Yeah.
But no, but look, but shouldn't that tell you that the organization should respect the fans a little bit more? Because we could easily, or I'm not gonna say we because I'm not in New York, but the fans could easily be like, "Fuck you guys, we're not going." But even in 2016, when they gave up and they weren't even this bad, they gave up on the season. The fans still went. It wasn't a packed house every night, but the fans still went, and they were still alive in the playoff race. So people still went. Even in 2013, when the team was relying on Vernon Wells and Lyle Overbay and Kevin Youkilis and all these guys, people still went. So I don't think people are going to not go if Judge isn't there, but that should tell this organization, like, these people care about this team. They want to see this team win. Shouldn't we do something to fix this? Like, shouldn't we at least be like, certainly at least stop calling the fans stupid? Like, they're not saying it directly, but they're pretty much alluding to it, that we're idiots. That's how they think of us. And just show the fan base a little more respect. All teams in sports should do that, because there wouldn't be a team without fans. Think about it. What happened when COVID hit and there was nobody in the stadiums? What did Hal Steinbrenner say? Well, we lost a lot of money because there were no fans in the stands. And then what happened? They started to come back little by little. It was section by section. And then all of a sudden it was just a full house again. And now the Yankees are selling. They got patches on the jerseys. They just teamed up with the paddleball league or whatever the fuck that is, because that's the fastest growing sport, apparently, according to that moron Randy Levine. So they're making money hand over fist. They weren't when we weren't when the fans weren't there, when the fans weren't going and selling out Yankee Stadium every single night and buying all those concessions and the chicken buckets and the jerseys and the bobbleheads and whatever else they sell. So shouldn't that tell this organization we should take this a little more seriously, because these people care? Look, I don't think Yankee fans are the greatest people in the world. In fact, we're a pretty nasty fan base, but we are a dedicated fan base. We care a whole lot about this team. So shouldn't that tell Hal Steinbrenner and Cashman, like, these people are going to they're not going to, people are organizing a Fire Cashman night. I don't want to see that. I don't want to have to be like, let's go and chant fire the GM, because that means we suck. I don't ever want that to happen, but that's what it's come to. Wear brown paper bags over your head. Bring your signs. Chant fire Cashman. That's what we're doing. That is what we're doing now. And the organization is going to continue to say it's a championship organization. It's a championship operation. Oh, we're still in it. There's a quarter of the season left. Stop. Just stop. Just look at what's in. Yeah, stop bullshitting us. Just tell us you think we're stupid. I'd feel much more comfortable with that. But just stop trying to pretend like everything's okay when it's clearly not. Just admit you're wrong. Look, I get it. There's a pride thing. No one ever wants to admit when they're wrong. No one wants to admit defeat, especially. We know this. Everyone has an ego. Everyone has pride. No one ever wants to be like, shit, I was wrong. But sometimes you got to swallow your pride and do it. Move on. And that's what the Yankees have to do. But they continue to spew us bullshit. I sounded like Donald there with his accent. Bullshit. that everything's okay. It's not okay. And I'm like at a loss for words of how stupid this organization continues to be. Day after day, they get worse. And I'm like, how do you get worse? Everyone else sees through it. And you're just like, this is fine. Like, what's the meme with the dog sitting in the chair? Everything's on fire around him. This is fine. That's Brian Cashman right now.
Yeah, move along. Nothing to see here. No, it's really, fans can be ugly. Would I go to that the Fire Cashman night? I probably would. I'd probably be in the mix of all of that. I can't deny that. I want him gone that bad. And if it's going to get me a day out and hang out with some people and chant for somebody's job, I'm all for it.
Call out a
No,
word. Tell
that's a
your
lot
boss.
yeah, it's I'm already going to a few games at the end of the season, and it's like, all right, I'll pass up on that one. But and then I would have I had penciled in to try to get to 10 games this year. Right. By the end of the season, I would have made it to 6 games. Right. So I didn't make my 10. But if they were like really playing a lot better and like giving me something to really want to go see, I would have squeezed it into my schedule, no problem. I would have asked Dan Tats. I'm like, all right, is it all right? I'm going to go this weekend. She would say, all right, I'm going fishing. You go to the game. It's not, believe it, it's not that I need her permission. It's just, that's the way marriage works, if you don't know. But you know what I mean? I'm not in a rush to get there. Like the games I'm going on the 10th because my nephew is dying to go to a Yankee game with me. So I'm going to take him to, we're going to go, him, my son, we're going to have a few drinks. We're going to have a good time. The 23rd, because I'll be at Pete Simonetti's NYY News event. And then a bunch of my friends were going to the final home game. So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be going. There's nothing to go see. Why am I going to spend my money on them? But there are people that go to every game because they want to be there through the bad and the good. And it really, you never know, especially with baseball, because you can't script it. You never know what you're going to see that night. So you don't want to, you don't want to be that, I could have been at that game and it never happened. And you missed out on something.
Yeah.
But
We'll go back to the Miami series. Like there's a lot of New Yorkers here. This is New York South, but I was talking to somebody that I work. Oh, Jesus Christ, not soap operas. I don't think I can ever sit through one of those.
I don't know if it's that bad.
No. I mean, it's pretty bad though. But like I was talking to someone I work with and they were like, I could be at the Yankee game right now. I want to go see the Yankees play. I was like, I don't know if you want to see this team right now. And they were winning. It was 7. We were up 7-2 at that point. And then when it was over, I was like, aren't you fucking glad you were working today? Because you could have been watching that debacle. So, but if I could go to every game, I would go to as many as possible. I know there's a lot of people that do it. Mario Gomez, who's on Pete's stream a lot, he goes to every single game and he gets crap for it for some reason. I don't know why. But if he wants to go to the game, let him go to the game. Like we're fans, like if I could have season tickets, I'd be at every game if I could. I want to watch my team play, but it's different being there and watching it on TV. If I have to watch it on TV, I can just do anything else, put it on in the background. I could play Madden and watch the Yankee game in the background or something. But if you're at the game, you go to the game, go to enjoy baseball. If you can enjoy baseball, maybe the other team playing you can enjoy, but yeah, if you give the fans something to want to see, like Pereira, because there's a lot of people asking for the same thing that we are. Pereira, Peraza, Wells, Dominguez has been brought up. I don't think it's not happening just yet. Next year probably, but you give the fans something they want to see, they will come. They will come to watch the team play. It's that simple. Nobody wants to see this team ground into 6 double plays a game because you know what's going to happen.
No, it's when you're looking at, this team has just been so it's flawed. And if you notice, I don't have Dominguez in my lineup. And Rob, you knew me all last off season. Just let him skip. We've seen a lot of teams, with their highly touted prospects. They're skipping AAA and going right. They're just letting them figure it out on the major league level, right? And we see results of that. Where it's in a positive. Look at last year with Pena. They let Correa walk to give that kid a chance. Not only, and he killed everything. He had a phenomenal year. Why couldn't Dominguez? And yes, they gave that opportunity to Volpe, right? So I'm not going to I'm not going to completely tear them apart for it. But I'm using Volpe to get me some pitching help because we desperately need a lineup because we don't have one. When in September, what should we I know we're stuck with Severino for September. We lost Herman, and we who else did we lose? Rodon. So our lineup right now is and Cortez. That was the name I was thinking of. Right now, our rotation is Cole, Schmidt, Sevy. And then we're throwing in some people in there. I just say for the month of September, this will be my rotation. Unfortunately, Sevy's got to be in there, but he's my number 5 right now. I want him pitching as least. I don't even want him. I really don't even want him on the mound, but we have no choice right now. It would be Cole, Schmidt. I know we had a rough game, the other day, but it's the Braves. He's going to get knocked around, right? But I still have a lot of trust in Schmidt. Vasquez, Brito, just let them pitch for the rest of the year. And Severino would be the 5. I don't think we have another option.
Well, Brito and Vasquez are already here. I think Brito's scheduled to start Friday. We don't have a scheduled starter yet tonight, so it'll probably be an opener.
More of this up and down through the minor leagues.
Right.
Call up.
Well, they're here now. Yeah, and I think that we get Rodon back next week. That's what they're saying. So we'll get him. So the rotation should be Cole.
I believe it when I see it.
Yeah, so let's just assume by September we get that extra spot. They push him back till September. They get the extra roster spot. They don't have to send anybody down. Cole, September, Rodon, Cole, Rodon, Schmidt, Brito, Vasquez. That should be it. Severino can be shut down. You can put him on the Phantom IL. Don't use him. Don't use him anymore. And Jones saying that Clayton Beater might come up. I'd be fine with that.
That.
I would really like to see Clayton Beater come up. But, I mean, at this point, why not? Just get someone else on this 40-man roster. Give one of these kids in AAA a shot. I mean, Vasquez has been fine. I really wish they would have kept Davy Garcia just to give him a shot. I don't get why they got rid of him and kept guys like Anthony Mischwitz and Matt Bowman on the 40-man roster. And that guy we picked up from Texas who we haven't heard from yet, we have him, and he's sitting there. And why don't you give him a shot? Shit, what can't be any much worse than what we're getting from Severino and what we got from Rodon. So, but I know Davy Garcia wasn't very good when he was up here 2 years ago. But this year out of the bullpen, he looked fine. 2 outings, he looked fine. And yet they let him go. He's now with Chicago, but they're keeping guys like Anthony Mischwitz, who was let go by 2 different teams, and Matt Bowman, who they had to keep, or else he could have left. Oh, no, we're going to lose Matt Bowman. And this is what they do. They're giving up on a 25-year-old former top prospect, but we're going to hold on to Anthony Mischwitz? Who is that? Exactly. I don't know who that is. And yet he's still on the 40-man roster. So why is Cordero on the 40-man? Yeah, Abreu is still here for 2 fucking seasons. Albert Abreu has been on this team because they can't lose him. God forbid you lose Albert Abreu. This team would fall apart. Yet he's still here. This is what is wrong with this organization. They're afraid to move on from every other team in baseball would be like, Albert Abreu, you stink. In fact, 2 other teams did it. The Texas Rangers traded for him and let him go. Then he went to the Royals. The Royals, they said, you suck. We're going to let you go. And the Yankees said, we'll take you. And then when he started to suck, they said, we can't lose him. So they brought him back this year. He sucks again. We can't lose you. Billy McKinney, not very good. We can't lose you. Jake Bowers, not very good. We can't lose you. Greg Allen, we can't lose you. Why are you so afraid to move on from journeymen? It's not like you're letting go of top prospects, but you let go of a former top prospects. Yeah, D-Rod's accountant is on the Yankees 40-man roster. That's not even a joke. I looked at that up. I was like, why do they DFA Davy Garcia? And I looked up, like, why the hell is this guy still on the 40-man? But they didn't give Garcia a shot. I know next year Luis Gil's going to be healthy, so we'll get him potentially in that mix for the starting rotation. But he's coming back from Tommy John, so you don't really know what he's going to be. But these are the moves that this organization makes or doesn't make that just make us like just fuming mad. Like the Heat, Sunil's bringing it up. The Heat's messing with his head. It's messing with my head too here. Trust me. And the more I try to wrap my head around what the fuck this team is trying to do, the more I look like a moron. And I start to feel like an idiot. I'm losing brain cells trying to watch and figure out what this team is going to do next. And I'm just going to let it happen, whatever they do next, because it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. But the more we try to make sense of it and be like, let's do this, let's move on, let's call this guy up, the team just like, no, we're fine. Everything's fine.
Yep. And what's going on now? Like it's just depressing. It really is. You want to kick, scream, rant. Who's got the energy for that at this point? It's pretty much that they've completely let every one of us down. They've let us down. And it's starting. I know we put a lot of the blame on Cashman. Hal's got to be just as accountable. And it was brought up earlier in the chat. Hal's got to be just as accountable as anybody else. Because he's the one that sits back, collects his fucking millions, and just he's letting the whole place burn down. It's you want to care, Dev. I know you because you want to be able to say, you know what, this championship was so rewarding. All those terrible years. That's what made the dynasty so special. Because the late 80s and 90s, it was rough. They were not a competitive team, and they had good players. They never, they weren't there. Before the 90s, I think it was 81 was their last World Series appearance. So it's not like this team has never been through this before. This generation of fan has never been through this before. And the ones that remember before the dynasty, and I'm sure your dad will agree, and some of you is in the chat that are older, it wasn't this bad. We weren't a laughing stock. We still had a little bit of prestige and pride. This team has none of it. They have no pride for their play, except for, like you mentioned, there's three people. Judge, Volpe's trying his fucking ass off, and Cole. Those are the only three that are really trying to wear those pinstripes properly. Everybody else is just kind of floating along for the ride, just going down with the shit. But those are the three people that are playing the violins on the Titanic, trying to keep everybody calm. Right? So it's fucking demoralizing when you see out of the 26-man roster, only three of them are playing like they give a fuck.
And what happened to those guys playing the violin on the Titanic? People were just busted, they ran by them. People didn't give a shit. They're like, this place is, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And they just said, let's keep playing. That's what we are. That's Judge, Cole, and Volpe. You can even put IKF in that category. They're all just sitting there playing their instruments. Gentlemen, it's been an honor playing with you all tonight. And then they just start playing the sad music, because that is what is playing right now for the New York Yankees, is the violin, the song that is playing, trying to keep everybody calm on the Titanic, but it's not working because the Titanic is sinking. The New York Yankees are sinking, and they're sinking fast. But even back you brought up the 80s, and I see a lot of people saying, like, if George was still here, heads would roll, people would be fired. He did that in the 80s. How many GMs did the Yankees have in the 80s? It's like 6. Over the from like 82 till about 1990, they had about 6 or 7 GMs. They had about 6 or 7 managers. He hired and fired Billy Martin several times. And it wasn't until George was suspended from baseball that things normalized a little bit. So I would like for people to not say that anymore. But like, if George were still here, yeah, he would fire people and all that. But it didn't necessarily work in the 80s, because how many times did he do it? Like, I wasn't alive in the 80s, but I can Google it. I could just look at our history of GMs, and I was like shocked. I'm like, we had about 6 GMs during the 80s. So he tried it almost every single year. They had 3 different managers in a season once, and it didn't work. They were a losing team every single year. So it wasn't until he was out of the picture and the team was able to get some stability with a good GM. They brought back Stick Michael. They had gotten Buck Showalter, which is why I've given Buck some credit. I said he's good for a team that's going through a transition. He's not going to win you a World Series, but he's a guy that can help you get there, because it's been his history shows He was with the Yankees. He left. They won a World Series. He was with the Diamondbacks. He left. They won a World Series. So maybe Mets fans, maybe if he leaves, maybe there'll be a championship team next year. I don't know. But
even with Baltimore, he wasn't
Baltimore.
able to win with them either, and they had a potent lineup back then.
Yeah. So he's good for a team that's trying to build themselves up, but he's not going to win you a championship. But he did some good things because he's kind of set the foundation. Then Torrey took it over and took us to another level. But everybody that was the core four, and Bernie was like the only exception because I think George was still running the team when they picked him up. But Rivera, Pettit, Posada, Jeter, I don't think George had anything to do with those guys. He wasn't running the show when they were picked up. When we got Rivera on the international market, we signed him as an international free agent. When we drafted Pettit and we drafted Jeter, he wasn't running the show. So you would think he probably would have traded those guys. I mean, so I just don't want people to be like, George would do this. This team would be winning under George. It probably wouldn't. He probably wouldn't let it get to this point. But if you want George to do what he did back in the 80s, we'd just be repeating history that was a bad history. We got to find stability, but we can't trust this GM to do it. That's what needs to change. We need a new voice. 25 years is too long. That's a fact. But George did something. I get it, Michael. I mean, but at that, if he was doing this, because everyone's been saying this since Boone took over, fire Boone, fire Cashman. If he had been every time we lost, if he had fired the manager and hired a new one, we'd be being like, it's not working. Because you'd be doing it every year. Look at the Giants. I'll go back to football, but we had like several head coaches and a few GMs in like a 5-year period, and it didn't work until they got a good one. And you can't just hire. And he hired a bunch of former Yankees too, George. He brought in Yogi Berra to be a manager a couple of times, and people hated him as a manager. He wasn't a good manager. So I know a lot of people could be like, hire Jeter as the GM. What if they don't win? What if they don't win with Jeter? Are you going to start saying fire Jeter? Do you ever want to say fire Jeter?
Same thing if they bring in Mattingly. Everybody wants Mattingly as a manager. Well, he was, he had a good run. He had a good run in LA with the Dodgers. They didn't win with him at the helm. They didn't win with him as the manager. He almost reminds me of he's very similar to your description of Showalter. He's going to get you ready for he can get you into that winning mentality, but he might not be that guy that can get you across the threshold. And it's not like, and there are times and places for managers like that. Not every manager is going to be, no questions asked, World Series, they lead the team that way. But Torrey wasn't like that either. Torrey just had the players that clicked. He just kept them all kind of grounded, and kept their head in the game. It's not that he had some magic potion. He just knew how to handle that type of clubhouse, and extremely successful. The manager only does so much. The players have to hold their end too. The GM has to give the managers the players that they can actually fucking win with. We wouldn't know what that's like at this point. We're going to have to go through some lean years. It's going to be, I think this is just the beginning of the ugly. I think that we're going to just keep, next year we might not even have a team that's above 500. We don't know yet. I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to talk about, winning series and going on a win streak. If anybody remembers what the fuck that is. I do want that. And I want to see that with the younger players. It's time to bring up the youth. Let the kids play. We're at 500. What makes you think we're winning tonight? What weakness with Atlanta do you think that their bats are just going to fall apart? Because they don't. They're one of the best ranked offenses in the league.
They're the best team.
Not in baseball right now. This is going to be a sweep. We're going to be under 500, and that's got to be the final. That's got to be the straw that broke the camel's back.
That has to be it. And I know we've all been saying the 18th because we're waiting for the day that, and that's when the service time manipulation. But the fact that it's got to come to that, like they should have done this after the deadline. The fact that, again, I said it earlier, I don't want to keep harping on it, but the fact that they didn't trade off at least Bader and like IKF or something just to open up some spots for some of the guys in AAA is ridiculous to me. But why are we waiting this long to get Pereira up here? He's been outstanding. Wells just hit his first AAA home run yesterday, but I can guarantee you he pulls a couple in the Bronx, they're going to go over the wall. That's just what it's built for. And the fact that we're waiting this long, knowing that we still don't have a left fielder, hey, we have an option out there in AAA. We have multiple options that can get the job done, and we don't call them up. And I see, a lot of people bring it up, well, at least George cared, Look, I'm not saying that he didn't care, but what I'm saying is his constant changing didn't work. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, do the Yankees need change right now? Absolutely. I wanted a new GM. We all did. I wanted it last year. I didn't want Brian Cashman back. I didn't want Aaron Boone back. But if we're talking about, well, at least George cared, he might have cared too much because he was just constantly trying to change things up, and it never stuck until he was out of the picture. So again, I recognize George for what he's been able to bring and what he's done as what he did as the Yankees owner, but it wasn't all pleasant. Not everything was sucking sunshine with George Steinbrenner at the helm. There's a reason he was suspended from the league. There's a reason why he got suspended from the league. And I know he cared. Trust me, I know he cared because I was watching the sport. I listened to him speak after we fought the Orioles. Literally, he said, "I'm proud of my guys." That's what he said. Those words will always be in whatever the word is, stitch into my brain. I'm proud of my players for fighting. But in the 1990s, we had stability, right? We weren't going to fire Torrey because they were winning every year. Yep. But look in the early 2000s, they weren't winning every year. The dynasty was gone. It was starting to break apart. We were losing in the first round every year. He didn't fire anybody. George had opportunities to fire Cashman. He didn't do it. He kept spending money, and it didn't necessarily work. So I'm just saying, kind of pull back on the whole, we need to, George needs to be back. There is a huge difference between George and Hal. I get it. He doesn't have to be like George, but Hal does need to be, Hank would have been, rest in peace to Hank as well, but I don't think Hal needs to be like George. He does need to make some changes, but he doesn't need to be constantly doing it. And we're not going to have a new manager that's not a puppet until Cashman's gone.
Yep. And if I made that joke the other day, I was like, yeah, you get a win and you get a win, after the Marlins series. How the fuck do you lose to the Marlins? That shows how that one series, not that there haven't been a few, but that was one series where you're like, there's just no fucking hope in sight. There's no light at the end of the tunnel anymore. We're not even close to the end of it because you look lifeless against Miami. How fucking sad is that? That's unacceptable. But no, we do need major changes, and we all knew that Cashman was coming back. We said it on the show. As soon as they gave Boone that contract, we're like, Cashman's going nowhere. Because they would not have allowed him to give Boone that kind of contract if they didn't have his right around the corner. We all saw it. We all saw it coming. Until I don't think that, you know what? I'm trying to think of a scenario where they just say, you know what? I know we just gave you these contracts, but you're gone. I don't see it. I don't see any situation where they're like, you know what? You've embarrassed us enough. Get out. It's not happening. That's even worse.
It should have happened last year. Like Cashman had no contract, and they were still operating with him under a handshake agreement. Yeah. That's an issue. That was your opportunity to be like, look, yeah, we got to the ALCS. Yeah, we won 99 games, but here we go. You've been here for 25 years. We haven't won since 2009. You should have made the change then. You could have just gotten rid of him, given the job to Sabian, or whatever. But losing Kim Ng was a huge loss. Derek Jeter knew exactly what he was doing when he took her to the Marlins with him. But and not even that, but you lose her. You have these morons that are helping Cashman run the show, and then you bring in 2 former GMs, and what have they done? Nothing's gotten better with Sabian here, and we thought it would. Nothing has gotten better with Minaya here, and we thought it would help a little bit. It hasn't helped at all. So, yeah, and Michael said it earlier in the chat. He's like, Hal doesn't need to do everything, but he needs to do anything. To do something, right? Grow a pair for, you know what? Because fans would respect him a lot, even if I just gave him a 4-year deal. But if he comes out after the season and says, we got to make a change, we're going to pay Cashman to just ride off into the sunset for the next 3 years, and then he'll forever have a spot in the Yankees organization.
He's celebrating like he's the best owner that ever owned the club.
Right. So he's got his money. He's going to have his cake and eat it too, whatever. But that's what needs to happen. And we know it's not going to happen. But maybe if they fail again next year, then Hal will be like, okay, 2 more years, whatever. But I don't see it happening yet. They're not firing Cashman after this year. And I think Aaron Boone will be fired because they're going to use him they're going to place the blame on him. But then we know we're just going to bring in a manager that's going to be just like him. Like ideally, they'd get rid of Cashman. They'd get rid of Boone. Bring in Ron Washington or something. I don't know. The Braves have had a ton of success. He's part of that Braves staff. Was he the third base coach? He's had some success with Texas when he was the manager there. Maybe give him a shot. I don't know. Go with that old school mentality with him, and you have Sean Casey there, and maybe things get a little bit better. You got Washington, Casey, Blake. That's your coaching staff. It'd be a lot different, but yeah, absolutely, NFE. And I've said this. Donald said this plenty of times. It wasn't until Mara and Tish got out of their comfort zone because they were bad. They were terrible. I couldn't stand.
They only from the one tree, and then they decided to go deeper into the forest.
Yeah, and then they said that they brought in Dave Gettleman, and everyone's like, oh, they went outside the organization. No, they didn't, because he used to be with the Giants before he went to Carolina, and they kept rolling the same nonsense. Like, we're going to bring in a Belichick guy from the Belichick coaching tree. Think it's going to change things. It didn't. It wasn't until Mara and Tish shut the hell up, got out of their own way, and brought in an actual GM from a winning organization and said, it's your show. You're hiring the guys. So he brings in Dable. Dable brings in his coaches. They bring in an assistant GM from the Eagles who had helped win a lot of games, helped build that team to what they are now. All of a sudden, Giants have stability. And Giants fans, like myself, like Donald, like I don't know who else is a Giants fan in the chat, but we're feeling optimistic. We just won a playoff game last year. We haven't been to the playoffs in so long. We're feeling optimistic because we have construction. We have a vision. We have a clear vision, and we can actually see where it's leading to. The Yankees don't have that vision. The Yankees are thinking like, we're just going to throw money at it and it's going to get better, like it's a stripper or something. But sometimes it doesn't always work. So the Yankees have to change some things up, and it's not going to happen unless Hal Steinbrenner says, I'm sick of hearing my fans boo me, right? Because he did it last year. They booed him. Derek Jeter said, you don't want to boo this guy. And then Hal was like, I got to get Judge back. And he did. So maybe now he's got to grow a pair and be like, I got to do something. And it won't happen this year, but maybe next year it will. Maybe after next year. And Reggie Jackson does not want to be a part of this Yankee team. He's with the Astros through and through. I don't think he's leaving.
No, his days with the Yankees are done. Here's an idea, and I remember I was talking about this in Hector's chat yesterday. Here's an idea. All right, let me know what you guys think about it. Promote Rachel Balkovec to bench coach. All right, because you don't want. They're not gonna. We know they're not gonna fire Bone. They're not gonna fire. Well, they're gonna fire Bone. We know that they're not gonna get rid of Cashman. Let her get some experience as a bench coach, right? And she's been a great manager for AA. But let her get a little experience in the dugout, major league locker room, areas like that, and then move her into like an assistant GM type of role, and start getting her primed to take over for Cashman when his contract expires. That might be a route they can go to at least give us a little hope for the future, because she does want a front office position. She doesn't want, she wants to work her way into that role. Here's an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I think she's single A manager right now. So she's
single A.
She's with Tampa Tarpons, but I think at some point she'll be in Double A, and maybe she'll go through that kind of like a prospect. They'll have her manage the Single A. Maybe she'll be a bench coach in Double A and eventually manager at Triple A. Maybe at some point she'll be the manager of the Yankees. I don't know, but they got to try something, man. Like, that's what we've been saying for months, is just try something, because this combination of Cashman and Boone isn't working. Like, Matt Blake's the only one on this coaching staff that I think is untouchable, because what he's been able to do with a lot of these pitchers is fantastic. But if they cleaned house and kept Blake as the only remaining guy from this staff, I'd be fine with it. But I don't want Brian Cashman running the show next year, because I have no faith that he's going to change this roster up, because they need a lot of help. A lot of help. And it's bad right now, really bad.
Yeah, it's I just we know that. I think there was a caller on the Fan that referred to Cashman as Tom Hagen. Right? He might not have been a Corleone, but he's a Corleone. Right? He's a brother that's just kind of adopted that way. And I think that was probably one of the better comparisons I've heard for Cashman in a while. Is he's Tom Hagen, and they're not going to get rid of him. What they need to do, like John said, and a lot of people are saying, just get him out of the GM spot, put him in a different role. Even Li said, just announce that he's going to be part owner, and just get him out of the front office, get him out of the GM chair. They got to do something. They cannot. If they were to say, like, let me see if I can find the comment real quick. If they were just to say, look, we're not going to hear this, right? Because even if the Yankees did this, Hal comes out to the press and says, Cashman has been relieved of his duties as GM, but I still want him in the organization. He's a minority owner. He'd be okay with that. I think we all would. Right? I would have no problem with that at all.
Do it.
Just get him the fuck out of the GM seat. That's it. Just get him out. Because he's only going to make everything so much fucking worse.
Yeah.
You already saw last offseason and this deadline, he did nothing. It's one thing if you're like, if we were a game or two out of like a wild card spot, but we were really playing well, that you would want to stand your ground and trust your guys. Say, all right, I know that you guys are going to get us over this threshold. So we're just going to ride it with you. We didn't have that this year. This year they played like fucking dog shit. And they're like, we still trust you. It's unacceptable. You cannot be a GM and have that mentality.
Yeah, we're like dog shit on top of horse manure. That's what we are. Like, that's what the Yankees are this year. So yeah, if they were playing okay, if they were playing good baseball, but they were just victims of a really good AL playoff race, okay, roll with what you have. Maybe even add a bat or two. But the fact that we were playing poorly and they did nothing, that's going to stick with us forever. We can't, we know they should have sold off pieces, but Cashman should absolutely be gone. 25 years is too long to be in the same position, especially when you only have, I don't want to say the 90s were not like, everyone was like, oh, that wasn't his team. He was a big part of putting that team together. Again, I've said this before and I'll stick by it. There's a reason he was recommended for the GM job. He had a lot to do with those 90s teams. But from that point forward, if you go back from 2002 till now, that's 20 plus years now we're talking about. He has one World Series. It's been time to move on for a very long time, and they need to recognize that. You can let him go, give him a spot in the organization that's above the GM or whatever, or maybe just have him next to Hal, whatever, as like the co-owner or something, the president. Give him Randy Levine's job. I know he's untouchable too, but I can't stand that piece of garbage. But do something to get a new GM in here, and just let him kind of like do that thing he did with A-Rod, where he retired, but we knew they were just kicking him out. We knew what they were doing there, but he should know. I wish he would know, like, what I'm doing here isn't working, and I got to I got to move on for the betterment of the team. But sometimes you got to just grow a pair. And we know that Hal loves Brian Cashman like a brother, essentially. Like he's another Steinbrenner. You always said it. He's a de facto Steinbrenner, but they got to move on. They have to move on because it's going to be more of the same next year. Hey, they might make the playoffs next year if they're healthy. Look, because they do have a good team at 100% strength, but they're never healthy, and they lose games that they should win, and they're relying on one player. So if Cashman wakes up and tries to, like, at least they lower that analytical team and they shrink that a bunch and they get some new blood in here and some fresh minds to help him out, that might work. We thought that would be Sabian, but I don't think – I thought we were going to win like 104 games or something like that. I really thought we were going to have a great year. But, yeah, injuries have played a huge part of it. I get that. But at the same time, when you still had guys like Rizzo who you didn't know had a concussion for 2 months, and you have Stanton who's playing like crap or he's been hurt. Rodon's been hurt and pitching like crap. Sevy's been hurt and pitching like crap. When you have like 3 players that are actually playing really well, you're not going to win a lot of games. And the fact that we're not below 500 right now is actually shocking to me. We should probably be about 6 or 7 games below 500, if not for playing Oakland and Kansas City as much as we have already.
Yeah, no, believe me, it's not that far away, Rob. It's after tonight we'll be under 500, and then I don't see there's no Kansas City walking through the door. There's no Oakland walking through the door for us to start gaining any ground anytime soon. The fact that they just continue to just roll everything back is, when you're looking at the way that the season ended last year, you had, we got knocked out of the playoffs in a sweep. It was embarrassing. But we still have pretty much the same roster that got to that point. The only thing we only had to do was get another solid starter and a left fielder. And this team would have been so much different. This team would have had that different look while still keeping the core, and you still would have had room to bring up Volpe to get him into the mix. That's because we've all been saying over and over and over again, the game has passed Cashman by. He cannot do the job anymore. He cannot do the job effectively anymore. He can't put a winning team on the field. And who gets in trouble? Who gets the shit for it? Boone, because Boone's the one that's going to be tossed to the fucking curb. And it's a shame because he got great guy, terrible manager, no backbone. I think for the sake of his career, he should I would quit before I even got fired. Like, you know what? I'm out. I'm going back to the booth because you're not going to ruin my credibility anymore.
Yeah, again, he signed up for this.
Yeah.
It's not like he was forced into it. They didn't hold him at gunpoint and be like, you're manager of the Yankees, whether you like it or not. And he's like, oh, I don't want to. He wanted to be here. He wouldn't have interviewed for the job if he didn't. But, the team, the game has passed Cashman by. If you've ever played a racing game and you go the other way and they tell you going the wrong way and you watch the other cars lap you, that's what the Yankees are right now. We're getting lapped by almost every team in baseball. The fact that we're neck and neck with Oakland for worst offense, that should tell you something. And they didn't do anything, and they haven't done anything to try to fix it. No one is saying that Pereira, Peraza, Wells, they're going to save the season. No one's saying that, but you might as well. And that Florial should have been here long ago. And the fact that he got hurt in the minor leagues is ridiculous. But the fact that they haven't even tried it, that's what makes me the most pissed off. They haven't tried anything. And I've said this countless times for the multiple months now since Aaron Judge got hurt. They aren't even making an attempt. Calling up Billy McKinney isn't trying to change things. It's just filling a roster spot. Giving a second chance to Florial would be trying something different. Getting Pereira up here before that manipulation date and Austin Wells would be trying something different. Letting Peraza play every day over DJ LeMahieu or Gleyber Torres. You can play him at third. You can play him at second. It's clear as day Volpe's the shortstop. I'm fine with that. But that would be trying something different. because what we're doing right now is just relying on the same aging, not like in Bowers and McKinney, they're not like old as dirt, but Bowers is like 26, McKinney's like 28, but you're relying on journeymen and a lot of aging veterans who are declining to try to correct something that is far from correcting right now. So you might as well still you could still say, hey, we're still in it. Right? We're 6.5 back, but there's a quarter of the season left. You could still say that, but if you go forward with the young players, a lot more people would be invested. Like, hey, let's see if they can do it. Because if they do, even if they finish like a game and a half out, but you're like, hey, they went on some incredible run with these kids playing, guess what? Everyone's going to be invested for 2024. It's like, shit, we got our left fielder. We got our center fielder. We got Judge 100% next year. Rodon's going to be healthy. We still got Garrett Cole. Let's get some pitching in there. Let's roll. Let's get ready for next season. People are going to be juiced up and fired up. But if you roll with the same team from now through September and only wait until like the last couple of weeks to call these kids up, no one's going to give a shit. Give them the final quarter of the season to play every single day. And people are going to be invested and they're going to be juiced up for 2024. Even if we're not going to make the playoffs, but even if we make a run and get close, people are going to be like, we got something going on here. But until that's what happened in 2016. Because people were like, shit, Sanchez is here. We saw Judge. We saw Tyler Austin. Sevy was already called up the year before. We're starting to get a little bit of injection of youth. Teixeira was going to leave. A-Rod retired. And things were changing. People were excited for 2017 despite the expectations being low. So do it. Just do it. It's been way overdue, but just do it, because the fact that we're still waiting for a manipulation date is ridiculous to me. Every other team in baseball are calling up their prospects despite them being winning teams. Seattle's doing it. Atlanta's been doing it. Every other team is going to do it, but the Yankees are like, we really need that extra year of service time. We don't want to help our team win now. We need to hold them for an extra year. Just stop. Just stop the madness and get on with the future, because you waited way too long. So I guess we're going to have to wait till Friday to see it. But tonight we'll probably be under 500. And then Friday they'll give us a reason to come and watch the game, because maybe they'll make a roster shakeup or not.
Yeah, we'll see, and we could only hope. That's what we could do. Or we could that's what sucks even more this year. Is it's like we're waiting for something, and we're not getting anything. It's I just can't take it anymore. I don't care what change is made. Just make a fucking change at this point. At least show that there's still just a little bit of a fucking pulse. Show something. I want, why can't they all just be like IKF, right? The guy that he had no clue what his role was going to be, but scratched and clawed and learned how to play the outfield to just keep himself afloat, just to keep himself employed. Cheering with tears in his eyes because he was not traded. That's how much he wants to stay here. I wish they all were like that. Instead, they're just kind of going through the motions. And I know, Cole, Judge, Folkway, they're in that boat too. But I did forget to mention IKF earlier, so I'll do that. But one thing that we can talk about on Friday is the announcement with Jeter coming to Old Timers Day and the whole ceremony, and some of the changes that are going on with Old Timers Day. That's going to be interesting. I think that'll be a really relieving discussion rather than talking about this inept lineup, this terrible team, this frustrating GM, and a stupid fucking manager. But that is going to wrap things up for us today. Hope everybody did have a good day. If you have not already, hit that like button, hit that sub button. Everybody in the chat, we always appreciate you. And as always, wear your pinstripes, your pride, and play hard.